What's up, third graders? We're back here to talk about some geometry, lesson 7-6. And this is not all that unlike the ones we've already done in 7-4 and 7-5. It's sort of a carryover from there. We're just extending what you're able to do a little bit further. So the video will be pretty short. The message will not cover too much new material. Most of it will be sort of review. But there are a few concepts that I do want to introduce to you. So let's get started with those, and then we'll move towards sort of the review, and we can talk about what your assignment's going to look like today as well. All right, so first things first, I'm going to talk about 3 different types of angles. So we have 3 different types. We have a right angle. Wow, let's try that letter again. Right angle. We have a acute angle. And we have an obtuse angle. Okay. So the right angle is something we've talked about already, and that looks like this. It's a perfect square corner. So I'll do my best to draw one of those here. Bring this down a little bit. So that's one right there. And it's like, if you think of the corner of an index card, it's that perfect pointy corner that's just like a square, like a square corner. And an index card is actually a really nice thing to be able to use, because if you're ever questioning whether or not something is a right angle, you can grab something like an index card, or I even have a book here. I could use the edge of my book that has that 90-degree square corner. I could put that up and check an angle to see if it was indeed a square corner or a right angle. No. One thing that you'll notice as you get older, when you do right angles, when you have them, you'll often see a little square in there. And that just shows you that that is indeed a right angle. Now, you won't see that all that much in 3rd grade, but just for the future, you will want to know that. An acute angle, oh, and the one last thing I should tell you about a right angle is that it's exactly 90 degrees, and that little circle up there is how we show degrees. So it's always 90 degrees if it's a right angle. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So for example, this angle right here that I'm drawing for you is less than 90 degrees. 90 degrees would be like straight up and down from this point, and this obviously is less. So if I drew a 90-degree angle, I'll put my red back in there. It would go all the, whoops, get the right tool here for this job. It would go all the way, I'd measure it all the way up to like here. It would go up this way. And so you can see that this angle doesn't, this part of the angle doesn't extend up far enough. So it's not a right angle. It's called an acute angle. It's less than 90 degrees. And you're gonna have a little bit of work on that today in your assignment. So acute angles are angles that are smaller than 90 degrees. They're less than right angles. They're collapsed in more than a right angle would be. Let's undo those 2 drawings for you, and I'm going to write in there that this is less than 90 degrees. Less than 90 degrees. And then we have our obtuse angle, and you probably could have guessed at this point that an obtuse angle is greater than 90 degrees. So between 91 or 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So I might have that and that. And so you could see, if I got my red back out, a right angle would be, somewhere, let me move that to the right spot, right in there. So if I took this red and this orange, that would be a 90-degree angle right here. That would be a 90-degree angle right there. But this, orange angle, this obtuse angle, extends further than that. This line goes past it, it goes to the left of it. So it's more than 90 degrees. It's think of if you had a 90-degree and you opened it up even more. Think of opening a book. If I had the book open this far to 90 degrees and then I opened it all the way, I would be having an obtuse angle. All right, so let's get rid of the stuff in the middle there and give you a definition of this. It's more than 90 degrees. So it's more than a right angle. So those are the three types of angles. I'm not expecting you to have a mastery of these at this point. I just want you to be introduced to them, and I want you to understand that they exist and that they're out there, and you're going to start seeing them in your geometry problems. You're going to start seeing them in shapes. Now that you know about these, you'll be able to point out, often when you look at a shape, oh, that shape, Mom, has an obtuse angle. Dad, that shape has an acute angle. You'll really impress some people if you start using these terms correctly. The other thing that we want to talk about today is attributes of shapes and how you can describe the shapes that you see, what terms you should be using. And for that, I want to actually go and look at the work that you're going to be doing today. So let's switch share here. We'll go to a different screen. And we will go to lesson 6. And in lesson 6, you'll see here that you're going to have some acute, obtuse, and right angle work. You'll also see you're going to have things like analyze the shape below. List as many attributes as you can. So attributes, the word attribute is like a characteristic, a description. So describe this shape in as many ways as you can. And you'll have that as an example. And this is really good practice. This is stuff that you're going to do a little bit more this year and obviously beyond, is being able to take a shape like this and analyze it and tell me that it has a certain number of right angles, that it has an obtuse angle or an acute angle, that it has a certain number of sides, that it has a specific name. So let's go back to the whiteboard and list some of those things that you can do. So when you are, so attributes. Here are some things that you can use when you're listing attributes. You can use the name. You can use the number of sides. You can use the number of angles. You actually have a question in there today about the number of sides and the number of angles. Like, for example, if you have a pentagon that has 5 sides, does it also have 5 angles? Can you have a pentagon with 5 sides that has less than 5 angles? Why or why not? Can you have a triangle that has 3 sides, have less than 3 angles or not? And I want you guys to think about that. That's a question on your thing, but it's an important question to consider just in terms of what makes these, what makes up the attributes of these shapes. Number, size, number, angles. Sets of parallel sides, if it has any or not. Sides, and so on and so forth. Those are some, you can tell me basics like that it has straight lines with no gaps, which would mean that it's a polygon. So there are many different ways that you can list the attributes. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to be detailed. You know that Mr. Brunel likes when you're detailed. I don't want you to say, that is a square, and then move on to the next thing. Well, if it's a square, tell me it's a square. It has 4 sides. Each side, oh, we can add side lengths on here. All the sides are the same length. And that it has 2 sets of parallel sides, that it has right angles. Ooh, the types of angles. That would be acute, obtuse, or right. So these are all, this is like a menu here of options that you can use when you are talking about the attributes of shapes. Again, I'll review them one more time for you. You can talk about the name or the classification. If you have difficulty with classification, go back to lesson 7.4. I have a 26-minute video there that goes pretty in depth on how to classify quadrilaterals. So take a look at that if you're still struggling with that concept. You can talk about the number of sides, the number of angles, the number of sets of parallel sides, if it has any, or if it doesn't. Whether it has straight lines and no gaps, making it a polygon. Whether its side lengths are the same or different, or a mix of some are the same, some are different. And the types of angles. Is it acute, obtuse, right? Those are all ways that you can talk about shapes. Now, we talk often in our class, in all subjects, math, reading, writing, science, social studies, you name it. We talk about, in order to sound like an expert, you need to use the right vocabulary terms. So you need to be specific with your vocabulary. You need to be exact with your vocabulary. That is a really important part. It's an important part of everything, but it's especially important in geometry. So rather than just say it has a small angle, say it has an acute angle. Talk like an expert. If it has an angle that's greater than 90 degrees, don't just say that's a big angle. Say it's an obtuse angle. Use specific language as you are talking. That's going to really help you sound like an expert, and it's really going to help you be exact and specific when you are being a mathematician and when you're talking about mathematics. Any questions, as always, ask me in Zoom, send me a message, and we can go over it again. All right, guys, you are doing a wonderful job, and I appreciate all your hard work. Have a great day.